Okay, go ahead, Grandma.
Yeah.
Sound speed.
When I was 4 years old, my father came to America because they told him that in Europe, they said, if you come to America, all the streets are filled with money, dollars and $5 and $10 and $20. So he came to look for the money so he can bring us to America.
From where? From what country?
Romania. It was called Austria. When we were there, it was called Austria, which is the borderline. Every month or so, there was another battle, like New Jersey and New York. So, I call myself Australia, but actually I was born in Romania. And I was born on a farm. It was one cow that gave so much milk. What are you going to do with this milk? There was no refrigeration, no pasteurization. So my mother bathed the children in the basin. We didn't even have a bathtub, in the basin. And we had the most beautiful skin.
Because she bathed you in milk?
It's true. It's true. It's like cold cream, I guess, if you freeze it. So then my father came here and tried to get a job. And then...
Why did your father come here?
I just said, they told him that there was money in the streets all over. When you come here, you're going to be rich.
So things were not good in
So when he came here, he didn't see any money on the street, and he couldn't get a job.
Can you speak English?
No, he couldn't speak English. He spoke Yiddish, that's all, and Russian. Like I can speak Russian. I used to speak fluently. All I can say is net, which means no, and Ya ne znаю, which means I don't know. When I go in the supermarket, people say to me, how much does that cost? I says, Ya ne znаю, I don't know. Anyway, when my father got enough money to bring us over on a boat, my brother was seasick the whole time.
In what profession did your father work?
I never knew what he did in Russia. But when he came here, he got a job as a presser on sweaters. Do you remember the word twin set? Would they show it now? What do they call it? An ensemble or something?
Yeah, it's like a cardigan and
yeah.
a sweater. Underneath.
But that time they only had wool. So the sweater would be, the sweater, when they made it, would be this big. Mm-hmm. He had to stretch it to become size 10, size 12. And there was sweatshops, there was no air conditioning. And he only worked in the summer because everybody wanted the sweaters in the winter. So he'd come home and he'd be all sweated. When I came here, 4 years old, this man who I hadn't seen since I was born over there, I started to cry because I didn't know who this man was. And he picked me up and, I'm your father. I said, I really didn't know him. At 4 years old, you forget very easily. So now...
He left when you were 4, or you came to the United States when you were 4?
He left before I was born.
Okay.
That's it. So now when I came here, we go to Ellis Island, and we had to stand on line. You came, because there was a quota, how many people could come into the States. Now you can sneak in. But that time we couldn't sneak in. So my father came on this boat. Now on this boat, we didn't have like first class. At the bottom of the boat was called the steerage. We stayed there. And my brother was sick the whole time. It took 2 weeks by boat to come to America.
Grandma, Did all of the siblings stay in Europe, or did did
Everybody.
So,
But they came one at a time.
so when you came, who did you come with? Your mother and Uncle Morris?
Morris and Aunt Lily.
Okay, so your brother Harry was already here.
Yeah, my father saved up enough money to bring him here. Now, my father couldn't get a job, so the only thing he could find was to be a presser.
Right.
You press the button here, you pick up it like an ironing board, and the sweat would come down. Yeah. But I have to tell you, when we lived in, call it Romania, we had one cow.
Yep.
And a few chickens. And this is where we only grew our vegetables. That's why we were never sick there. There were no pesticides, nothing. So there was so much milk, what are you going to do with it? So my mother bathed all the children.
So when you came here,
We had a bathtub.
okay, where did you live? When
Where
you
did I
first
live?
came here?
On Throop Avenue, Throop Avenue. My father got the apartments.
Was that in Brooklyn or in
In Brooklyn,
Okay.
never Manhattan. We lived in Brooklyn, and we had a coal stove. And my mother and father would go to the supermarket, or grocery at that time, and they would get the crate of, from the oranges and potatoes, and they would break them up in pieces, and we would put it into the stove for, because there was no coal. We didn't even have coal.
So that you broke up the crates to use for fuel?
My father did, really.
Mhm.
We put, and then when an iron to iron, we had an iron that you put it on the stove to get hot.
Right.
No steam iron, nothing. And then we only had one bedroom. We all slept in one room, and that kept us warm. Everybody hugged each other. But in Europe, where I was, we only had a few chickens, and that's how we got eggs. Now, what came first, the chicken or the egg?
All three.
Also, so we did that, and then when they wanted water, it was a bucket it was like a well. You put the pail down.
This is in Europe, not in
Europe,
Brooklyn.
no. In here, in America, we got this apartment. It had a coal stove.
Did you have a bathroom in your apartment?
I forgot. Did we have a bathroom? I guess we had a bathroom. Where else would we go?
Well, to go down the hallway, like in the tenements and
No, it was in the hall. We all had to share it.
with other people who lived in the building.
Of
Okay,
course.
so you didn't have your own bathroom in your own
No, I
apartment?
didn't have my own bathroom. We didn't have our own ice box, it's called. A refrigerator is called an ice box. And when the ice melted in there was a pan underneath. We had to dump it
Mhm.
and put the pail back. But this
How
man,
did you get the ice? Was there
oh,
ice
the
man?
ice man came with a big pliers, not pliers, like
Tongs.
Yeah.
tongs, and he carried it up 3 flights.
How big was the big piece of ice? How big was the ice?
Why don't you ask how big the refrigerator was?
So the ice stayed on top? Is that what it was?
No, it was inside.
Inside.
Inside. And it was a basin underneath where the ice would melt. And this was on the 3rd floor walk-up. It was always I would call it the attic. Now they call it that, the attic. And now, we were so poor, this is the truth. We were so poor, no money, nothing. My father worked day and night, and I think maybe he brought home $5, $6. There was a sweatshop.
Now, did your siblings work? Because they were all older than you, right?
Yeah. I never really worked. I worked as secretary.
You went to school, though.
Yeah, I went to school to learn shorthand.
No, but when you came here, nobody knew English,
No,
right?
I went to kindergarten to learn English, because I could only speak Yiddish and Hebrew and Russian. That's what I know, Yana Znaya. I think I told you once, Yana Znaya
Yeah.
means I don't know. So what I wanted to say was that in there, and when we were in Russia, we were so poor that whatever they made grew in the ground, that's what we ate. But we were healthier then. Your great-grandfather, great-grandfather, lived to 106 or 108.
My great-grandfather. Your father, he's
Yeah,
talking about.
yeah, your grandfather. He was riding a horse and he fell at that age. And after that, he was not the same. That's why when I fell, I'm not the same.
You're talking about your grandfather
Yeah,
in Europe.
that's your great-grandfather.
Right, it's
My
his-
great-grandfather.
It's his great-great-grandfather.
Actually, my great-great-grandfather.
Oh my God, so many greats.
So tell
So,
us about when you were in school.
When I was in school, I couldn't speak. I don't think I spoke. And there was, of course, American children there. So my mother and father could not read English. They could read the Jewish paper, the forwards. It's called the forwards. But they could not read English. And my mother never went to school. She didn't know how to write. I had to teach her to make a 3. She was making a B instead of the number 3. And when she went shopping, she didn't know the money, a nickel, a dime, a penny. She would give them, here, take what you want. Oh, they were honest people then. Now they take the whole thing from you. There's nothing. But when we came here on the boat, my brother was seasick the whole time, because it was at the bottom of the boat. And my mother would say, don't eat all the food, we have to save some for him, because he's seasick all the time. So then, when we got here, I went to school, and my mother didn't take me to school, she didn't even know where it was. We went ourselves. We didn't go by bus, we didn't go by train, we just learned how to go. And the fare was 5 cents.
How did you get there? On a train?
5 cents.
On what?
On a train?
trolley? On a...
No,
bus?
The school was not too far away. But when we went on the train, it was 5 cents.
Okay. But did you walk to school?
Yes, because it was maybe 3 or 4 blocks away. And I had to teach my mother to speak English. My father couldn't speak, but he could speak. He could understand, but she didn't. I never went to school. That's how it was there. Now, when we came here, I went to school. I went to public school, and then high school, and I was not very good in math. I really was not good in math.
Let's run in the family.
It runs in the family? What, this one?
No, me. I'm not good in math.
You're not good in math? But we used to go with, my mother would put 3 apples or pears or something, and they taught me 1, 1, 1, to learn the math. P.S. When I graduated high school, I got a medal because I was doing math. But Grandpa helped me.
Right. So when did you meet Grandpa? How did you meet Grandpa?
Oh, from the neighborhood.
He lived-
Statistics show, this is the truth, statistics show that 9 times out of 10, you meet somebody that lives within an area of 5 blocks.
So your family knew his family from
No,
the neighborhood?
never. His family was very religious. And ours was, my mother would say to my father, could you light the gas? She was religious. Light the gas. Take the garbage out. Do this, do that. Right? And she always used to knit because we didn't have any clothes. We were so poor. One time, my brother opened up a fruit store.
Mhm.
And that's how we used to get our fruit. But the paper it's wrapped in pears and apples
Mhm.
are wrapped in my mother would go to the grocery store, but then now it's called a supermarket, and she would take all the wrappings from the fruit and vegetables, and then she'd get home after she had the iron on the stove to get hot. She ironed out the paper, and this was our toilet tissue.
Wow.
This is the truth. Could be pear. Sometimes I use the pears. Sometimes I used an apple. Whatever fruit it was. And then, when my brother that opened up the fruit store.
That was Morris, right?
Yeah, he had a little money, and he went ahead and bought me a pair of skates with 4 wheels. Do they still
Roller
have them?
skates.
Roller skates, yeah.
Well, they still sell them?
Yeah.
Because they do have 2 wheels
Yeah.
now. So what happened was, I'm with my friends, and we have jumping rope. And my father comes home from work, and he said to me, come over here, I want to talk to you. He was very strict. We didn't have much money, never had a toy. You know, I never had a doll. I never had anything. My mother would take a napkin,
You used to do that for me, I remember.
a napkin, and she would make that into a doll. One corner would be the head, you make a nut. And then the other corners, you make the arms. So my father called me over and he said, I want to talk to you. I said, what's the matter? He said, take off your shoes. I said, why should I take off my shoes? He said, because by you jumping up and down, you're wearing out the leather. Now, give me the shoes and go jump rope. It's hard to jump rope without any socks or anything. Socks, forget about. And he'd say, well, you see what I mean? Took the shoes away from me because we were so poor. But you know what? We were healthier then than now. No antibiotics, no scientists, nothing. No. When was Louis Pasteur? When did he come out?
The late 1800s, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know when pasteurization became a
You
standard
became-
thing.
Right.
I was telling Sarah about polio and about how, you know, all the things that people used to do. My mother used to tell me that,
Garlic.
you know, they would wear stuff around their neck,
Garlic.
camphor and stuff like
Garlic.
that, and go up to the country and try and do all that kind of stuff, yeah.
Right.
And so, tell us how you met Grandpa. So he lived in the neighborhood.
Neighborhood, and we were some girlfriends, and there were some boys. And I don't know how we got together. Oh, I know what happened. He was going with another girl he met in this group, and the last name was Glass. Her name was Glass. And you know what my mother-in-law said to him? You could never marry this girl. Why? Because maybe it's in the family. You know that, Beth?
Yeah, yeah.
Never. So he broke off with the girl, and I was next in line. I was next in line. And then we kept on going. When I went to high school, he went to college because he's 5 years older than me. And that's how he taught me how to make a bank statement and to add, and no computer, no adding machine.
Right.
And that's how we came to America. Now, when I finally got a job, it was $5 a week. And then my grandpa's brother had an office, and he offered me a job for $7.
Who is that, Uncle Chick?
Younger chick, he had an office. And so I'm I'm working now for his $7. And some man called up, you know, now you answer the phone and do a little typing as stenography. And then this man calls up and he says, can I speak to a chick?
That was Grandpa had a brother whose name was Charles, but they called him Chick. That was his nickname.
There were 10 children. There were 10 children. Grandma, my mother-in-law had 10 children. So I answered the telephone, and I said to the man, "What is, what, do you want to leave a message?" He says, "Tell him Jackass called." You think it's funny?
Who's Jackass?
Jack Hiss.
Oh.
H-A-S-S.
We thought you said something else.
I said Jackass. I left a message, Jackass. He comes home from the office. My brother-in-law comes home and he says, "Any messages?" "Yeah." Jackass called. It's the truth. And I'm so nervous answering the phone in the first place. But he said, "I don't know anybody in Jackass."
So when you got married, when you and Grandpa got married, you got married when you graduated high school?
Yeah, at 18. And I didn't have, in Europe, they didn't have birth certificates then, or maybe my mother lost it. So we had to go to the Census Bureau. They still have the Census Bureau now. And that's how I was 18. But when my father brought me here on his citizen papers, he put me down, born in April, which is the year before, February, put me down 6 months before. And so when I went, so my real birthday, according to my father, was April. But actually I was born in February during Purim. I said to my mother, "What date was it in Purim?" I don't know whether it's the 29th or 28th, 27th. It was during Purim. So what do? I get my 18. I would have to be 18 to get married, and we got married. When we got married, my mother said, "I want a big wedding." You know what the big wedding was? The rabbi's backyard. It's true. This was the wedding in the backyard where the rabbi lived. That's really, really right.
There's no pictures from your wedding.
Who had a camera?
But you didn't go to, like, Grandma Sarah and Grandpa Al went to a photography studio. And
Oh
they had
my
pictures
God.
taken.
We're lucky that we even had that. And you know how much it costs? $2.50 a person, $5 a couple.
That's a lot of money.
Now it's $300 a couple now. So we were that poor, but you know what? I appreciate that time more than that. Milk was like 5 cents a quart of milk, 8 cents a loaf of bread, and we made do whatever we had. Now the children say, "I don't like that. I don't like broccoli. I don't like." Do you like broccoli?
I don't really remember the last time I had it.
You don't serve broccoli?
Well, I do, but
We
they
serve
don't
it.
eat
He's
it.
very picky
I
eater.
tolerate broccoli.
So tell
You-
us,
You don't like
Tolerate's
broccoli?
a strong
I'm
word.
not a fan. I will eat pretty much all vegetables except broccoli because I just don't like the texture.
so
of
the
it.
video is probably going to run out soon, but tell us
No,
about...
but not necessarily. There's an hour counter on it,
Okay,
so I don't
but
think it'll run
Daddy
out.
only has limited battery life on there.
True.
So tell us about when my father was born. Tell us a story from when my father was born.
Well, when your father was born,
Their grandfather, my father.
your grandpa, my mother came and stayed with me because I was so young to even have a child.
You were 19?
Yeah. And then my mother said to me, "You should not marry him because he's going, it was the war. You're going to go into the army and you'll be a widow before you're even married, before you're even born to have a marriage." But yes, I married him.
And he didn't go, wound up, what did he do in the army? He didn't go to
They
Europe.
put him 3-4 times he went to be interviewed to go. One it was that he was married. They took only people that were not married. Then they took that were married. Then they took with one child. Every time he went down to the recruiting office, and we said goodbye and we cried, there he is back again.
That's like what happened to my father with Vietnam.
I know. So then, finally, he went in Fort Knox. And they put him into a tank because he was short. You have to be short. You couldn't go into a tank. Neither could you. Maybe you. Maybe. Not anymore. You could. He never drove a car, never had anything that can put him in a tank. That's how we won the war.
But he never went to Europe. He stayed in the United States.
No, he stayed in Kentucky. And when he wanted to come home on a weekend, he didn't have any money. He went to the Red Cross and asked if he could borrow the money. When I get home, maybe I'll be able to pay it back, or maybe I can't. They said, no, we can't. And since then, he never gave money to the Red Cross.
Very interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And he came home, and we had this apartment. It was $40 a month, but there was always a mosquito or a fly, because we didn't have screens. I'd stay in the street until he came home. I was afraid of a fly and a mosquito. And it was the hottest day. I shut the window so nothing could come in. I don't like bugs. Does anybody like bugs?
Not me.
I can tolerate them.
Let me
He
tell
who
you
likes
something.
bugs
I have to
deserves
tell you.
a life in an asylum.
I have to tell you a joke.
Okay.
It's a joke about a millionaire. 3 men, a millionaire, somebody who makes some money, and one a hobo doesn't have any money at all. So they meet in the bar to have a drink. And the millionaire orders a glass of beer. He looked at the glass and he says, it's dirty, can I have a clean glass? So the bartender says, but you touched it and you just sipped it already, you'll have to pay for it. He says, look, I got plenty of money, I want one that's nice and clean. So they gave him a nice, did you hear the joke?
Mm-mm.
So he gave him a different glass of beer. The second man said, you know, there's a fly in my glass of beer. He says, but I'll keep on going, until the fly was at the bottom, and he was able to drink the beer. The third man said, he got the glass of beer, and even though there was a fly there, he drank the whole thing. When he came to the bottom of the fly, he squeezed him. He says, give me that drop that you swallowed. That was in the Reader's Digest. Right? So anyway, that's how, now when I went to high school in Williamsburg, my mother gave me 10 cents, a nickel for each way to come home. That's what it cost, a nickel.
What high school did you go to?
Eastern District. Now I think it became a yeshiva. So I would save the nickel and to have a nickel to spend. And that's how Grandpa walked me to school, because he was going to City College. And don't forget, he's 5 years older than me, so I didn't graduate yet, and he's already in college. And
And
then
he became-
coming home, I walked, I saved the nickel. So now, how I had 10 cents. And he went to work in a supermarket called Bohack's. He wore his hair like this, very, very short. And Bohack's was run by a German company. They thought his name was Herman. Herman is like a German name. So they thought he was German, paid him 50 cents a week. And when he came home on Friday, the grandma would stand, like his mother would stand with the hand like this. And everybody who worked had to put money in here because there was no money.
Now, Grandpa's father died
Yeah.
when his mother was pregnant with him.
Right.
So how did how did they support themselves after he died? From all the kids working?
The kids were working, and he was real estate minded, the father. And he owned about 5 houses, which maybe, this is so many years later, that maybe they spent $2,000 for a house. He ended up with, I think, 5, when he died, he ended up with 5 houses. Not he, but the grandma ended up with it. But the kids made so little money that she lost one house after another. And they had to go to college themselves, too, as Grandpa did.
Right.
And of course, now they're getting married and getting older. They wouldn't even help him. He had to do everything himself. So he went to work in Bohax, got supermarkets, stacked shelves, and at night he'd go to school. And then Uncle Chick got up in the world already. He married this one. By the way,
Aunt Florence came from a wealthy family, right?
but by the way, they opened, Aunt Florence has opened up, the father opened up a store for underwear, men's T-shirts and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then they decided that the union wanted to come in. So they went ahead and they moved to Schuylkill, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
There is still
Yeah.
such a place.
So Aunt Florence, Uncle Chick's wife, Aunt Florence, came from a fairly wealthy family in those
At that
days.
time now. So they moved to Schuylkill, which was, then Arrow Shirts moved in,
Uh-huh.
and all the big companies moved in to get away from the union. And I went there to see, because I'm supposed to move there, and we passed during Christmas, just like now, and I see they have all the crucifix and lights, and I said, where am I going? My God, I come from a Jewish family, where am I going? There was only one general store. It had meat, it had flour, had candy, whatever you want. By the way, those are jelly beans, they're kosher. Here,
Okay.
take them.
You want a jelly bean? Here. you
Not
can-
in particular, but.
No? You don't
No.
want it?
Wait, are those?
Okay.
Yes.
So finish telling us about Schuylkill. So you didn't move.
So we went there, and believe me, I would be a millionaire today.
Now, and then, because when I was little, I remember going to Aunt Florence and Uncle Chick's house, and
Oh, my
very
God.
big house in Westchester.
Oh, my God.
It was huge. And do you know what I remember the most about going to their house? That one time we were there for some kind of family reunion or something,
Always.
Could you?
and Aunt Florence had an entire cow's tongue defrosting in the sink. It was so disgusting.
Because we didn't have, there was no microwaves.
I know, but I remember they had this big, gigantic kitchen with
Oh
one of
my
these.
God.
Remember that house? It was huge, and this big, deep sink.
And the stove had one burner where you put the pot in, you fill up the pot, make soup, and it'll stay hot all the way down. I had that in Westbury. You know what I did?
What?
I wasn't I didn't have anything in the pot. The damn pot burnt. It burnt, nothing in it. And you know what ended up happening?
What?
When we moved, I had to replace the pot. At that time, it was 5 years later.
Mm-hmm.
So it was an experience going, and I always said I would go back to Russia, because they changed it to Austria. But I never got there, and my father never got there.
Now, how old were you when your father and mother died? Do you remember that? Were you already married? Well, I know you were already married when your mother died, because
Yeah.
you had my father already.
Ready. Yeah, your father gave me a hard time. You know, he never wanted to eat. The more he didn't want to eat, the fatter he got. You know why? He wouldn't eat. And we had an elevator. Now, if you press the button, you take another spoonful. Well, P.S., up and down. Nobody's using the elevator because I'm feeding something. And at the end, when he got finished from being in the elevator so much, when he got back in the house, you think,
Now, did you live in the same apartment building as your mother? Or you lived just nearby?
no,
Who lived on Avenue J or Ocean Avenue or?
mother-in-law,
Oh, it was Grandpa's mother.
your grandpa's mother. So he left like 5 houses, but each one, as a matter of fact, they had a house on Long Beach. If, today it would be a mansion, but he couldn't afford it. And each one, when they got married, they didn't want to do anything. The only one that wasn't married was Uncle Nis,
Right,
and he was left with the grandma,
right.
with the mother.
Now,
He taught in Brooklyn College.
Uncle Nis?
Yeah,
I thought he taught high school.
he taught high school, but he taught English language.
Ah,
in
oh
Brooklyn
yes, I
College.
remember. Is that how he met, remember Winton Lee?
Yeah, that's Lee, right.
And he had, this was a man who was a friend of Uncle Nis's. They play golf together,
Yeah, right.
and he owns a Chinese restaurant. Remember? And we went. I remember going to the Chinese restaurant.
Right.
And
But those were good times. We look at it now and say it was terrible, but when I think back now, that there's a struggle now. College,
tell me about it.
you know, when Ken went to college,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't give him 1 penny
Right.
to go to college. When we saved up from the bar mitzvah and when he was born, he got presents. The whole 4 years cost $5,000.
Yep.
If you open your mouth, it's $5,000.
Yes.
What do they charge now? 40 a year?
It
If-
depends where you go to school. Most public schools are rather cheap.
Rather cheap. It's about $30,000 a year for Sarah to go to an in-state school.
It depends on which school, though. UVA and William and Mary are way more expensive than Mason.
Not way more, just a little bit more.
This is
Mason
not to
is about
sleep.
12,000.
But this is not to sleep there, don't forget. You gotta pay extra for sleeping. Now, Ken loved, there was no dorms built. He stayed in a trailer and he loved it. When they offered him housing, he said, no, I wanna stay here. He really loved it, and he loved the food too.
Mm-hmm. Well, they have a dairy at University of Maryland with fresh ice cream and stuff from their agricultural school.
Yeah, I know.
Did they still
I
do
know
that?
about the ice cream, I know about the milk, because he was gonna think of taking agriculture. Sarah, he was gonna take something with agriculture. So they had cows there in the University of Maryland,
Mhm.
you know, and they would make ice cream from it. And one of the cows was called Hilda. A big, fat cow named Hilda. Now, where do you want to go to school?
I have no idea.
Most people don't really start thinking about it.
What grade are you in now?
I'm in 9th grade this year.
Oh, so you're going to be going to high school. I mean, you're in
He is in
junior
high. No,
now.
he's in high school. In where we live, high school, junior high school is 7th and 8th
Well,
grade,
some places it's 6th, 7th, and 8th, but
and high school is 9th grade.
I mean, do you have a favorite? Like some people like to draw, some people like mechanics.
I don't really have one of those, but I'm kind of looking into
Art?
in my chorus class.
Art?
In chorus.
In my chorus class, we had a program called Senior Buddies,
Yeah.
where a person who was a senior or 12th grade in the choir would give somebody who was new to the choir, like would communicate with them anonymously, and then eventually you'd meet them.
It's possible.
Yeah, so my senior buddy named Lindsay said that she was doing something called film studies, and I thought that was kind of interesting. So I might want to look into direction and filmmaking.
What do you want to be?
No idea.
You have to think about it.
Yeah.
A dentist? Would you want to be a
Dentists
dentist?
make a ton of money.
But you have to do more math. Noah complains when he does math.
Oh.
Do you remember when Stephen was little and used to give him, Grandma used to give Uncle Stephen columns of numbers to add, and he Grandpa Babe had this big adding machine.
Yeah.
You know how Uncle Stephen had in his office the thing with the roll of paper?
Yeah.
And so Uncle Stephen used to love to use the adding machine, remember?
Yeah, but your grandpa was not great in math. Not even in English. Because I got a call to school to say, what foreign language do you speak at home? I said, we only speak English. I don't know. He got my money, everything is got, and instead of going, he went, it was all mixed up. No, he said, we only speak English. Do you speak another language too?
I'm learning Latin. No, it's not.
Who's taking Spanish?
Nobody.
Nobody's taking Spanish.
Me casa, you casa. Right?
Yes,
You took Latin too?
I'm taking Latin.
That's
I'm,
hard. What do you really need that Latin for?
it's the,
For medicine, maybe?
well, a few things. One, it's the language of the sciences.
Yeah,
If
but
you're
maybe-
talking about species classification and things like that. Two, a lot of other languages, including Spanish and French and
It's all from
Portuguese,
Latin.
yeah, it derives from Latin.
Yeah, I know.
And,
So we have a sort of common base, and it's a little bit easier to figure out from context what people are saying.
But let me tell you something. An ordinary person does not use Latin when they're doing a business.
That's true.
But when you're doing look in the dictionary, it always gives the definition Latin. It gives the 3 letters and then the 2 letters, and then you can make a word.
Yeah,
Do you watch Jeopardy?
on occasion. But yes,
I'm
Latin is very
learning a
helpful.
lot from that.
yeah, it helps a lot.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, Latin helps a lot with understanding English vocabulary words. It's like, for example, you know the word patriot?
Yeah.
That comes from the Latin word pater, which means father. And the actual definition of patriot is someone who loves the fatherly land.
You're taking Latin now?
Yes.
Oh, so you can explain.
So can Sarah. Are you taking AP?
I took AP last year.
What are you taking now?
Is
Latin
there a
five.
Regents for,
They call them SOLs by us.
But,
you have to take it?
There aren't any tests that we take for our languages,
Well,
except those are sort of in class. Those are in class tests,
So
not
they're still-
state
Oh,
tests.
okay.
But there's a system of classes called AP classes
Yeah.
where they have a particular curriculum, and if you pass a test at the end of the course, you have a chance to get college credit for it. So last year I took the AP level of Latin, and hopefully when I go to college they'll say,
You don't
oh,
need a language.
you took the AP.
You don't need a
Your language credit, that's done.
Listen, your grandpa, Ken,
I know the story.
was not very good in Spanish. If I repeat it again, he got 40 on his Regents.
Out of how many? What does that mean?
Out of 100.
40 out of 100?
40 out of nothing. Could not learn. Now, when he went to University of Maryland, they said he needs a language. So what did he pick?
Mandarin Chinese.
Chinese. And then with a scholarship to Taiwan, but your mother didn't want to go. Who knows where he would be now. He did apply to the UN, but they want more. As much as he got from St. John's University, it still was not enough. And there's not many, now a lot of schools give Chinese as a course, but at that time, there's only one in New Jersey. I think it starts with an S, very short name, of Chinese. And we said, well, what are you going to do with it? Open up a laundry or a Chinese restaurant? What can you do with Chinese? He found it very easy. It's all characters.
Mm-hmm. He's taught the kids, he's shown the kids how to write Chinese characters.
Of course, I remember none of it.
Yeah.
No, I do not remember him doing that at all.
But do you do with that little thing with the money, what do you call, what do you call it, when they move the money up in the
The
Chinese?
abacus?
Yeah, the abacus.
We learned about it in 3rd grade.
Theoretically, I know how to work an abacus.
You know
I've
how to
never
work?
had to.
You know how to work it?
Well, the basic principle is that each row of beads represents
Yeah, the beads.
ones or tens or hundreds.
Yeah, you're right.
So if I have 200 beads, a 10 bead, and 3 ones beads, that would be 213.
Right, it's a good way.
Yeah.
Very good. No, he was not good in that, but Chinese he was. Who would take Chinese? Now a lot of them, especially now.
Right.
He was way ahead of his time. You know that? He was way ahead of time. But now you forget after a while.
Mm-hmm.
Like Hebrew. I went to Hebrew school, I didn't like it. My mother paid 50 cents a week to go to Hebrew school. I didn't like it. I said, when are they going to learn English? A little bit English, only the Hebrew. So I didn't take it. Now, when we went to Israel, I didn't know that Mayim is water, right? We were in the restaurant, and the water was very warm. You know, they didn't have refrigeration for the water. So I went like this, like the water, meaning I want cold water. They bring me hot tea.
Because I thought you were cold.
It's true. Did you like Israel?
Oh, did
Yeah.
we have a good time in
So
Israel?
They
Yes.
had the best shawarma.
They
What's
had
the shawarma? I don't need it.
Shawarma is lamb meat.
That on the big spit, and then they kind of
shear
slice
it
it
off.
off the spit.
But what about those meatballs? I wouldn't think
The
of eating them.
Falafel?
Whoa.
Falafel is an acquired taste.
Acquired taste, I'd have to live there. I lost 10 pounds. We stayed a month. I lost 10 pounds. Nothing to eat.
We had a
And
good time in
there-
Israel.
Because I couldn't eat. It was terrible. I met a woman who knew Merle. Wherever she goes, she knows somebody. She was a teacher in 206. And she says, I says, I'm so sick, I can't eat. She says, I'll give you 2 pills, but I gotta save the rest for myself.
You know what Grandma had? Shilshul,
Oh.
which is
Oh.
the
You like
Hebrew,
that?
Hebrew word for Montezuma's revenge is what
Oh,
shilshul
but
is.
you had it too?
I had for like an hour or 2. It was when we got to Tel Aviv.
Yeah, I was
we,
in Tel Aviv.
Yeah, we were eating. Our hotel was right by the beach.
Yeah.
Like it was just a block away from the promenade. So we went on the promenade, and we went to a restaurant. We started eating, and then I just stopped and went, "Dad," and we had to
Run to the
run
bathroom.
to the bathroom. It was a weird bathroom.
And you
because
ate? You were able to eat?
it-
You could eat that food?
No, you know what he ate? He ate pizza the whole time. Pizza and grilled cheese. Every place you go, they have that stuff now.
Well, I enjoyed a lot of the Israeli food.
Yeah,
But
the
the
falafel, the falafel after when we went to the mall with Hilda.
Oh yeah.
That was great.
Well, the thing
Were you
was,
near King David? Did you see the King David Hotel?
Yes,
Yes.
we stayed.
We stayed across the street near the YMCA.
We stayed. We stayed.
Menorah.
Yeah, we stayed in the Dan Panorama in Jerusalem, which was not the King David, but we were right near the YMCA. We were within walking
The
distance.
YMCA,
Uh-huh.
and then there's the Menorah Hotel.
I thought the hotels have changed names a little bit.
And you
since
know
then.
what? You know what Dad did? When we had to use a limousine, to get places, everyone was an Arab. So, Grandpa went over to the desk and said, "Look, they're Arabs. I don't want to go with them." He said, "They're the only ones that drive, right? With Mercedes, don't think they have cheap cars."
well, the first day we were in Israel, it had been a late flight. There was this baby that screamed continuously the
Yeah.
whole time.
But
All
stop
12
crying
hours.
when you got off.
I think I was too out of
All
it
right.
to notice.
You know what, Grandma? We're gonna shut the video off. So, what do you want to say? To
What I want to say is that I wish you all a healthy new year. Good luck in school. Did you pick a school?
I am waiting to hear back.
Which one?
What's your
Uh,
preference?
Hopefully Brandeis.
I don't think you'll have a trouble.
What's your second choice?
Either
William.
Johns Hopkins or Oberlin.
No William and Mary.
Erica went to John Hopkins. It's a very good school,
Oh yes.
but very big.
Oh yeah.
Very big.
Although when we visited, there was this adorable little black cat that was lounging on the steps and it would go up to people. I think that's single-handedly responsible for almost all of the warm, fuzzy feelings I have about
Do you like
Hopkins.
cats?
I prefer dogs. I always feel like when I'm near it.
I don't like cats.
Okay, Grandma, we're staying, but we're gonna shut the video off.
Bye,
So,
Grandma.
say goodbye.
Bye. Thank you for coming.